The Senzo Meyiwa murder trial has been postponed to Monday. That's to determine the way forward. This is after Advocate Zandile Mshololo, representing accused number 5, charged at the state for what she says is the failure to disclose crucial evidence. Now, this relates to the second docket, which names people who were in the house, including Kelly Khumalo, as suspects. All right, let's see if we can quickly get into this conversation. And we speak now to Magdalene Moonsamy, and she is the lawyer representing Kelly Khumalo. Ms. Moonsamy, thank you very much for your time. Can I start by asking the question whether your client is preparing to either hand herself over to the police or bracing for an arrest?
Sorry, Kelly, can you please repeat your question? There was some noise in the background before.
All right. It's a very simple one. It's a very simple question. Yes. Is your client preparing to hand herself over to the police based on what came out of court yesterday?
No, if it is what is required of her, of course she's been compliant at all times. I spoke to the state prosecutor as early this morning regarding the second docket that was brought into evidence, or not even officially in evidence, in court, and he indicated to me that my client remains a witness. They still have to consider and peruse the content of the docket. There is no authentication as to whether the docket was part of information, whether it is official, whether it is a submission that has been made. So there are still deliberations over that docket, the 375 docket. The one thing that you must remember, Kelly, is that that docket is not the first time it's been heard of. It has been brought to the attention of the court, and I spoke to Brigadier Ganinda at some point regarding that docket. There has never been any contact on that docket with the police, my client, or myself. And that docket is a 2019 docket. So if since then to this point there has been no contact with regard to it, we've been clarified that client is not a suspect. She may or may be called as a state witness. It was further verified by the state prosecutor today. So, I just don't want us to get our knickers in a knot over a docket that could have been then found to be, of which content we are unaware. Yeah.
All right. Let me put it to you this way. Are you aware of efforts to try and have this docket enrolled in a court of law, which would then, I suppose, bring into action the whole matter of the arrest of your client?
In the past, well, in 2021, I was given I would call it a letter or some form of a written document by Defense 1 to 4. And in that document, there were some very damning allegations that were made. And as I said to you on the last occasion, he contacted me from prison and asked me to hand over my client to the police station. I contacted Brigadier Ganinda at that time. And he said to me, there's no such concern that needs to be considered over any other docket. The manner the trial will pursue its legal course as it will, and it will find expression. And this is what happened when the suspects were arrested last year. And it was then set down for April 11th. So no, in terms of formally enrolling it, let me take you a little bit to the point that I feel has been abused by the defense. One is the issue of jurisdiction. Now, you remember on day one of the trial, the issue of jurisdiction being the Pretoria North High Court was raised and accepted without any objection by the defense 1 to 4 and 5. The reason I bring this to your attention, Polly, is because that docket 375, if it had the teeth that is claimed to have, it should have been served before Johannesburg. So the bringing in of the docket, the jurisdiction would have at that point moved the case, and the accused would then be that of those that are alleged to be on that docket in court, as opposed to the accused who are sitting in Pretoria.
So let me quickly interject then and ask the question. So you have been aware of the existence of this second docket, but what you're telling us is that the allegations contained in that docket, which implicates in part your client, the allegations there are not strong enough to withstand scrutiny in a court of law. Is that what you say?
No, sir. I am aware of the case number. I am not aware of the content. The allegations that were presented to me by Defense 1 to 4 came in his own form of what he alleges, not the content of the docket. So I am not aware of the content of the docket. I was told that by Defense 1 to 4 of the case number and given a document where he explains his version of what was the scenario, etc., which is and the stopping of prosecutions, etc., with this regard.
Yeah.
I am not aware of the content of the docket. I spoke to the state prosecutor this morning. He also informed me that he is going to only have a look at the docket today, and he will then, and I can then make my request for such.
All right.
But there's no decision at this point that is taken with regard to that docket.
So before I ask you what you think is likely to happen on Monday and whether you plan to be at court at all, how does your client respond to what has come out of court twice now? And that is that your client, Kelly Khumalo, mistakenly fired the fatal shot. How does she respond to that direct accusation?
Oh, look, my client has been accused of buying killers. My client has been accused of perjury. She has been accused of defeating the ends of justice. She's been accused of issues relating to a cell phone that is not in her possession. Now she's being accused of the one pulling the trigger. Can people please decide what they want to accuse her of?
And do you, by any chance, know of the possible motive that is driving these allegations against your client? And by the way, perhaps you would care to inform us, who do you think might have had the motive to kill Senzo Meyiwa?
There was a point at which there was a rumor going around of a mastermind, if you remember.
Yeah.
And that was also the sentiment that was echoed by Defense 1 to 4. The mastermind, this was so mastermind. Now we come to a point where everyone in the house are masterminds, allegedly, in terms of what is being said. There are things, Polly, that one can put the pieces together too, but one has to be very careful, because one would then not want to entrap themselves in a situation of being legally irresponsible. And I don't want to suggest, in terms of motive, there are many questions around motive that can be raised. One is, what was Kelly's motive, if it was her for that matter? There's no motive. That is confirmed. There's no motive. There was no financial benefit. Secondly, there's a 3-month-old baby. These people are crazy in love with each other at the time. I don't see the motive for her. However, remember, that Senzo was a national asset, an incredible football player.
Yeah.
And career development is something that's important to all individuals, irrespective of the profession that they're in.
Mm-hmm.
But it may not always be simple to have a consideration of, who would want to lose Senzo? Not the nation through death, but maybe not even a team. So I think that the way one has to consider the aspects of motive is the perplexities that surround both these individuals in terms of their development in their lives. One could say, if we really want to just shoot in the dark and speculate, what if it was meant for Kelly? What if it was this? But that is not the question that we are at right now, because that could also, and I've said this before, in as much as one can speculate that those accused in the dock, and I am urging the court and urging society to ask the question, where and when are Defense 1 to 4 and 5 going to present the version of why their client is not guilty before even considering throwing then the baton onto somebody else.
Right.
But more importantly, I think what is important to consider here is that there are many questions that can be asked about motive. However, one is certain that if my client has to appear in court, she will definitely do so, and so will I.
Right.
I am making my submissions to court, yes.
So let me ask final question then, two questions in one. Is Kelly Khumalo the only client that you are going to be representing should indeed things come to a head and she is charged? Because there is the mother, Kelly Khumalo's mother, Gladness Khumalo. There is Zandile Khumalo, who also were inside that house, and they are part of the people who are mentioned as potentially being charged. And indeed, it obviously adds to the question that I said I would ask you about whether or not you intend to be in court on Monday.
Yes, Kelly Khumalo is my client. She has been my client for a number of years. And this is why we don't have an issue. She, at this point, remains my only client with regard to this matter. Should she be charged in the event of such speculatory as it is, yes, she will be in court, and she has mentioned so to me. It has been reaffirmed today by the state prosecutor that client remains a witness. And the last question was, would I be in court on Monday? I'm going to make my submission regarding my concerns about the issues relating to points in limine to the court, and I will leave it in the hands of the court to decide on the appropriate or the considerate time for my return. I think that it is very clear from the actions of Defense 1 to 4, both the instructing attorney as well as the counsel, regarding me as an intimidation, causing intimidation to witnesses, defeating the ends of justice. I think they must remain focused on their matter. And I will remain focused on mine. So it's just a matter of me then making my submissions, and obviously my clients and I have consulted, and we have a very clear plan in terms of our processes regarding litigation.
All right. Just as a matter of interest, how would you describe relations between your client, Kelly Khumalo, and her mother, including the sister Zandile? How are relations there? Look,
it's a family. Families are families. the relations are good. It's a family. These are adults, people who are busy with their own lives and doing what they need to do. It's a family. Families have their natural situation where you'll have a trouble at some point or you'll be fine. It's not, this is family. There's nothing unusual about it except the fact that it is beleaguered with this case that everybody wants to remove themselves from. If you're wanting to ask in terms of representation, Polly, why is it that I'm not representing Zandi or the mum?
Ms. Khumalo, yes.
Yes. Then ask the question.
Well, I did ask the question.
No, you asked me, is she my only client? No, it's not about that. If there was any dissonance regarding versions, etc., that's not the issue. The issue is that I have been her counsel for many years, not only regarding this matter, regarding issues of business and other matters that involve her life. So it's not surprising that she would then, unless things change for any reason, which I highly doubt that it would, then we will take a decision from there. But remember, these are adults. They have a right to their legal representation and who they want to represent them.
All right.
So it may be that it's not me, and that's fine with me as well.
All right. Very interesting indeed. Thank you very much for your time, Magdalene Moonsamy, the legal representative of Kelly Khumalo. That's the person that Senzo Meyiwa was in a relationship with before he sadly passed on.